Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village, there lived a kind and loving merchant father with his 3 beautiful daughters. One bright morning, the father prepared his bags for a long journey and gathered his 3 daughters to ask what gifts they wished. The eldest daughter, filled with dreams of wealth and beauty, asked her father to bring her a magnificent necklace of shimmering pearls. The second daughter also desired great riches and wished for the most sparkling diamonds to make herself the prettiest in the land. But the youngest daughter was gentle and humble, completely different from her sisters, caring nothing for jewels or precious treasures. With a soft and tender smile, she asked her beloved father for only one simple gift, a tiny little lark that could sing so sweetly. The loving father smiled warmly at his daughters and promised he would travel far and wide to find each of their heart's deepest desires. He embraced his 3 daughters' farewell and walked down the dusty road, completely unaware of the fate that quietly awaited him ahead. The father traveled through many villages and markets, searching everywhere for pearls, diamonds, and especially the little singing lark. After many long days of searching, he finally discovered a beautiful golden lark singing sweetly upon a tree in a mysterious garden. Filled with joy, the father reached out his hand to take the precious little bird from the branch for his beloved youngest daughter. Suddenly, a mighty and terrifying lion leaped out from the shadows, roaring fiercely and blocking the frightened merchant from escaping. The fearsome lion growled that anyone who dared steal from his garden must pay with his own life as the only fair punishment. The trembling father fell to his knees and begged desperately for mercy, explaining he only wanted the bird for his dear little daughter. The lion agreed to spare him, but only if the father promised to give him the very first thing he would meet upon returning home. With no other choice and a heavy broken heart, the desperate father agreed to the terrible promise and took the singing lark away. The father returned home slowly with a heavy heart, carrying the gifts but also carrying the weight of his terrible secret promise. As he approached the cottage door, his beloved youngest daughter ran out joyfully to greet him first, just as fate had cruelly planned. The father broke down in tears and confessed everything about the lion, the garden, and the dreadful promise he was forced to make. The 2 older sisters cried out in fear and refused to go, clutching their pearls and diamonds tightly while hiding behind each other. But the brave youngest daughter calmly accepted her fate, saying she would honor her father's promise to save his precious life. She gently took the little singing lark into her hands and kissed her weeping father and sisters goodbye with grace and courage. With quiet determination in her heart, she walked alone down the forest path toward the mysterious castle where the lion awaited. Her family watched helplessly as she disappeared into the dark woods, not knowing if they would ever see their beloved daughter again. The young lady arrived at the magnificent castle as darkness fell, and the great lion welcomed her gently into his enchanted home. To her surprise, the lion was kind and gentle, treating her with warmth and respect like a treasured guest rather than a prisoner. Days passed peacefully in the beautiful castle, and the lady began to feel safe and even happy living beside the noble lion. One magical night, as the moon rose high, she witnessed something miraculous that changed everything she believed about her strange companion. The mighty lion transformed before her eyes into a handsome young prince, bathed in soft silver moonlight and freed from his beast form. The prince explained he was cursed to be a lion by day and could only become human again when darkness covered the whole land. Every night from then on, they talked and laughed together, and slowly their friendship blossomed into a deep and true love. The lady and the prince were married in secret, living happily together in the enchanted castle, treasuring each precious night as one. The lady and the prince lived in peaceful happiness, but she was always careful to keep their chamber in complete darkness each night. One fateful night, while the prince slept soundly, the lady decided to light just one small candle to gaze upon his beautiful face. As she leaned closer with the flickering candle in her trembling hand, a single drop of hot wax fell upon the sleeping prince. The prince awoke with a painful cry as the candlelight touched his skin, and dark magical shadows immediately began swirling around him. He looked at his beloved wife with sorrowful eyes and whispered that the curse had now grown much stronger because of the light. The prince told her he must leave immediately and travel far away to a place beyond the sun and moon where she could not follow. Before she could hold him back, dark winds swept through the room and carried the prince away into the cold, endless night sky. The lady collapsed to the floor, weeping bitterly, left alone in the empty, dark castle with nothing but her broken heart and regret. When morning came, the lady dried her tears and made a firm decision that she would find her beloved prince, no matter what it took. She left the empty castle behind and began her long and difficult journey, walking through endless dark forests and climbing steep mountains. Days turned into weeks as she traveled alone, facing hunger and exhaustion, but her love gave her the strength to keep moving forward. She asked everyone she met about the place beyond the sun and moon, but no one in the mortal world knew the answer she sought. One day she heard a legend about the great sun who sees everything in the world and might know where her lost prince had gone. With renewed hope burning in her heart, she journeyed toward the east, where the magnificent palace of the sun touched the golden sky. After many more days of walking, she finally reached the glorious, shining palace and stood in awe before its magnificent golden gates. Gathering all her courage, the brave lady stepped forward and called out to the great sun, begging him to help her find her husband. The great and mighty sun appeared before the lady in all his radiant golden glory, his warm light filling the entire palace hall. The lady knelt before him and told her sad story about the cursed prince and how he was taken away to a place beyond reach. The sun listened with compassion and searched his memory, but sadly he had not seen the prince anywhere in all the lands he shone upon. However, he was moved by her courage and true love, so he decided to give her a precious gift to help her on her quest. He presented her with a magical golden egg that glowed with warm inner light and held mysterious powers she would need very soon. The sun told her to seek his sister the moon, for she watches over the night when the cursed prince would walk in human form. The lady thanked the great sun with all her heart, carefully held the precious golden egg, and prepared to continue her long journey. As the sun began to set, she traveled westward toward the silver palace of the moon, carrying new hope and the magical gift with her. The lady entered the silver halls of the moon palace, where gentle starlight danced on crystal walls and soft mist floated through the air. The beautiful moon appeared before her, glowing with soft silver light, her serene face full of ancient wisdom and quiet understanding. The lady told her story once more with tears in her eyes, asking if the moon had seen her beloved prince during her nightly watch. The moon closed her eyes and searched through all her memories of countless nights, seeking any trace of the lost enchanted prince. At last, she opened her eyes with a knowing smile and told the lady she had seen the prince imprisoned in a dark, faraway castle. She revealed that an evil enchantress held him captive and planned to marry him, but the golden egg could help break her dark spell. The moon gently pointed toward the distant mountains and told her exactly how to find the hidden castle before it was too late. With grateful tears and renewed determination, the lady thanked the moon and rushed out into the night to save her one true love. Following the moon's directions, the lady traveled through dark mountains until she finally found the black castle hidden among the shadows. She crept inside the castle walls and searched desperately through endless corridors, looking everywhere for any sign of her beloved prince. At last, she found him lying asleep in a tower room. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not wake him from his deep slumber. The enchantress had put him under a powerful sleeping spell each night so that no one could ever speak to him or break his curse. Remembering the golden egg, the lady cracked it open and a brilliant warm light poured out, filling the entire dark room with magic. The magical light from the egg surrounded the sleeping prince and began to fight against the evil spell that kept him trapped in sleep. The lady held his hand tightly and whispered words of love, and slowly the prince began to stir as the dark spell started breaking. His eyes fluttered open and he saw his beloved wife, tears streaming down her face as she smiled with overwhelming joy and relief. The prince sat up and embraced his wife tightly, finally freed from the terrible sleeping spell that had kept them apart for so long. As dawn approached, they feared he would transform back into a lion, but the power of her love had completely shattered the ancient curse. When the first rays of sunlight touched his face, he remained fully human, no longer bound by the dark magic that once controlled him. They both wept tears of joy and held each other, knowing that their long nightmare was finally over and they were truly free at last. Together, they escaped the dark castle and began their long journey home, walking hand in hand through forests and over mountains with hope. At last, they returned to the beautiful, enchanted castle that had once been their home, now filled with warm sunlight instead of shadows. The prince and his lady lived there happily together for the rest of their days, their love having conquered all darkness and despair. And so the faithful lady and her prince proved that true love can break any curse, and they lived happily ever after until the end of time.